This this is the Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Hi, I'm Denise Gustafson, Editorial Director for Printing United Alliance, and the guest host for the special Printing Impressions podcast series in celebration of Women's History Month, highlighting women in the printing industry. During this series, I'll have the opportunity to talk with women from all segments of the industry about their experiences and their journey as a woman in the industry. So today, it's my pleasure to welcome Hilda Murray. She's EVP and owner of TPC Printing and Packaging. So Hilda, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. I'm happy to be here.
To get us started, can you give us a little bit of background about you and your role in the company you currently are at?
I've been with TPC since I graduated from college in 1976, so that kind of gives you an idea of how old I am. Been with the company for 47 years, and it is my family's business, so I own and operate the company with three other siblings. We are third generation. Our fourth generation has started with the company within the last 15 years. And we are a privately held, independent folding carton company. So we have a multitude of printing presses, but our primary function is luxury packaging, folding cartons, specialty packaging, rigid boxes. I manage the beauty division of the company, which is basically luxury beauty cartons and packaging, and the team that supports that segment of our business. And it has been growing very well for the last 10 to 15 years. And it's a segment that we've only been in for 15, 16 years, and it's a growth category. We do a lot of business with some of the premier cosmetic companies around the country, as well as spirits, over-the-counter pharmaceuticals. We do a pretty big segment in the gaming world and collectibles. And we have another segment, which is just kind of generic packaging. But within the last 4 years, we have opened up a rigid box division, which complements our folding carton division. So that's pretty much where we are at this point. Oh, and we are this year celebrating our 100th anniversary.
Well, congratulations on 100 years. That's a huge milestone.
Thank you. I say we've survived in spite of ourselves on that one. So, been quite a ride.
So obviously you got into the industry because you had no choice in the matter, I'm guessing, because it was a family business.
Well, I did have a choice, but my father convinced me that he needed me. So I actually graduated from the University of Tennessee with a degree in advertising. I was going to be a graphic artist, and he said, well, if you want to starve to death, why don't you just go ahead and proceed into that realm? And I said, well, let's talk about it. So we did, and it's just been one adventure after another. It actually allowed me to know this business from inside out, having worked in virtually every position except as a press operator, but we do have female press operators now. It's been an adventure, but I have seen this industry completely transform itself into a very technically digital operation and establishing a global footprint as well. So it's just been a nice adventure for me and my family, friends, and associates.
That's really cool. And it's really good to hear that you even have women working in the press operator, because that's not an easy job, to say the least.
No, it's not. And it's funny because we do not have a digital press right now as far as printing press, but we are looking at that technology very seriously now. And right now we're in traditional offset. And one of the main recommendations that I've had from our suppliers of these presses is that women tend to make better press people than men when it comes to digital technology, because they really finesse it. They are not rough with the equipment. They take care of it, maintain it, and not that men don't, but apparently it's just one of these skill sets that seems to be common with women, and women love the technology, and they are very good at color management and with changeovers, and the skill set seems to be a little bit more tenacious. That's kind of been interesting to me. But we put female operators on our stampers, which are BMA stampers that are made by BOPS, which is kind of the standard in die cutting. We have female operators on our silk screen presses. In the converting area, you'll see some women, traveling around on some of the equipment that we use to unload, trucks and that type of thing. So, it's come a long way. I mean, it was not that way when I first started at all. And now we see women in every function. I mean, even on the supply side, some of my closest associates are paper representatives or other supply chain representatives, whether that is, in the plates or graphic arts, or we've just infiltrated at every juncture, which has been really fun to see.
And I'm glad we have, because women have a lot to bring to the table, as you've mentioned, even just from third party people outside your suppliers that have just what they've observed across all of their customers. And they can see those trends and see what is happening and where the benefits are with having women handling some of those pieces of equipment.
Exactly.
For you, throughout your career, obviously you've mentioned you've already been in a whole bunch of different positions. You worked your way through the company. Were there any specific role models that you had within the company that really helped you to grow as you were learning the industry?
I had some role models that really were mostly how not to.
Well, you got to learn by examples of what not to do as well.
Yeah, exactly. But that was really early on. And, that's when you have, when you think you're right about everything and you're really not, and you don't really know as much as you think you do. So there were people like my father's secretary. Back then when you had a secretary, those days are gone. I mean, my secretary is sitting right here beside me and it's called my PC. But she was just a lovely person and multitasker, did anything that was asked of her, did anything necessary. And I think she taught me that, you don't have to act like you're above doing anything. I mean, we actually had a major budget cut, like in 08, 09, and we all had to take some pay cuts and that type of thing. We even had to get rid of our janitorial services for a little bit, and everyone ended up, cleaning toilets for a while. Nothing's above anybody, and I think that's the main thing that I saw people working around me. They were not above any kind of heavy lifting, and whatever was necessary to get the job done. And mainly that's what it takes to stay in business is just do whatever it takes. Just kind of swallow your pride a little bit and move on and let things roll. And that's been a real big part of my philosophy too, as far as advising other people. Is just sometimes you just have to let it roll, and you may not agree with it, you may not like it, but just let it roll, and you roll on out of here and go take care of business outside of the business. That's just kind of a little bit of soapbox talk. So, but
I do have to say, cleaning toilets is definitely the great equalizer.
yes, it is definitely.
But I mean, that's also, it shows the character of a person as well. If they're willing to be humble enough to just do what needs to do to get the job done.
Absolutely. Take the vacuum cleaner out. It's just little things. I mean, and you can see it in our plant when you go through our plant. It's the housekeeping here is just spectacular. It's because nobody abides by things that are out of order and disorganized. Pick up a piece of paper if you see something, on the ground or whatever. But a lot of printing plants are not clean. And you can walk through our plant and it's clean, it's organized. I think that shows you, the type of business that you're operating in, and it shows your customers that you really are, you have your act together. Let's put it that way.
And also for all of those out on the floor, it shows their pride of being there because they want to make sure everything looks Correct. And it's honestly, if it's organized, it's easier to work too. So there's a certain pride that's involved with that. And it's also just makes their life easier.
Sure.
Now, you mentioned earlier that some of the things that you tell people that you've had the opportunity to mentor. Can you elaborate a little bit on maybe some of the advice that you've given to both men and women that you've had the opportunity to mentor throughout the years?
Well, I'm not sure that they've taken any of it, but
I'm sure they have.
uh, there's one thing that I've really always believed in, and that's don't take yourself so seriously, but know that others do.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a fine line of just operating with the sense that you may want to say something off color, you may want to, make a joke about it, but make sure that if you're doing that, you're around people that understand you and are not going to take it as any kind of an affront or as anything other than what you mean for it to be. As far as mentoring, I mean, it's just setting, the example. We just show up, and when you're here, just be engaged and help each other. Very much a team player type of person. I mean, you've got to be able to work with other people to get the job done. You cannot do it alone. But there is a sense of ownership and accountability. So if you're going to have a program or a project that you're going to see through, then own it, but work with others to make sure that everything's getting done in the appropriate manner and as a team, and use that as an opportunity to build people around you so that if you're out or something is not being taken care of, you have every confidence that just because you're out doesn't mean that things are going to fall through.
Yes, exactly. And kind of moving on a little bit to one thing that I know a lot of women struggle with is the work-life balance. Because obviously you've had a career in printing, obviously you have a personal life. How do you manage to balance both of those well, or do you not? I don't know. I'm asking.
I would definitely consider myself pretty much a workaholic, and I don't even have any intention of retiring in the near future because it is pretty much my life. But I do have a life outside of here, and it's a very healthy one. And during my career, I did my husband and I teamed up and raised three kids. I traveled a lot, so my husband was such a support to the family, taking on the traditional role of the wife or the stay-at-home mother. I mean, we both worked, but I guess my job, I was traveling more than he was. He basically handled emergency situations such as getting one of our children to the hospital while I was on a trip and making sure that, things were handled from an emergency standpoint. We had the opportunity and we were blessed with the ability to have a couple that actually helped us with our kids for about 20 years. So without them, we could not have managed. And I really do feel for younger women who are having to balance work and care for their children, if they don't have family members or if they didn't have like the gift that we had of finding this couple that needed to work and also just almost became a part of our family. But I hear every single day of younger people who are looking for the appropriate care for their children and how expensive it is, and being able to justify that expense versus what they're being paid at their own offices. So, and as far as balance, I travel a lot for fun as well. I have, a lot of good friends that I travel with. My husband and I, do family vacations and that type of thing. So, and I love to exercise. And so, that to me is part of taking care of yourself. You've got to take care of yourself if you're going to, be successful in anything. So I guess those are just the things I would say as far as work-life balance. And like I say, I'm not really balanced at all because I work too much. But
You
I like
work hard, but you play hard too, because you do
that.
take the time to make sure that, like you said, the self-care, that you're okay. You take the time to make sure that you're good before you can even help others.
And I think that's key for anyone is that you've got to take care of yourself so you can take care of your business and your families and your children and all the other things that it takes to remain, healthy and somewhat balanced, even if you're not like me.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of women are just like you too, which is why that work-life balance is such a struggle. And like you say, and now for younger ones, do they pay for childcare? Do they not? Do they wait on having kids? There's a lot of questions that come up for those younger women that are coming into the market.
It's a challenge for sure. I'm glad those years are behind me. I look at my son and my daughter. My son has two children. He actually works here, and I know how hard he works. He's our plant manager, and it's just full on with children. It really is.
One of the things that I would love, and I think we would all love to see, is more diversity within our businesses, whether it's race, whether it's gender. More diverse voices can provide a really enriching perspective. Do you think there's any initiatives that we can do as an industry to encourage more participation from more women, from different communities?
I think that if there were some initiatives at the community college level and at the college level, and I'm kind of working with our state university right now because printing in general is not glamorous to a lot of people. And I know from some of the more diversified areas that are major corporations that have numbers, they have to meet in this type of thing. But I think it could just be a little bit more organic if there were universities and community colleges that just educated young people to the fact that, it's not just printing anymore. You're talking about supply chain, you're talking about logistics, you're talking about sales, service, management, graphic design, working with clients that are really interesting as far as, we deal with, like these cosmetic companies that are really fabulous. And most of them have packaging engineers on their payroll and are actually divisions of their company. And these are really smart kids that are coming out of packaging schools like Michigan State, Clemson, Cal Poly, RIT, Rutgers, and they're just not that many schools that have these programs that attract these people. And I've talked to our dean at the University of Tennessee about advertising, packaging, printing, they all go together. I mean, you can't have an advertising campaign without a print campaign or without some type of a packaging campaign, a branding campaign, and it's all tied together. So I think that we just need to make ourselves a little bit more visible to the communities that are feeding, the job market, whether that's like at a community college level or a university level. I think we could just do a lot more to initiate interest in our business. And I think it would really just cross over to many, many, many types of people.
One thing I always say is I think print and packaging is like one of the best kept secrets as industries, because packaging, printing, it's so ubiquitous now. People are just so used to seeing books and they're used to seeing newspapers. They're used to seeing packaging. They don't actually think about where that comes from.
Exactly. And nowadays too, the big push is on environmental friendliness, sustainability, recyclability. So it's not just printing, it's how you're going to print, what you're going to print on, how sustainable is that material, how recyclable is that material, how are we going to change the way we actually package something to make it sustainable. And I think younger people are really into that, and it's serious now and it's not going away. I've seen it kind of ebb and flow for the last 40 years, and we've seen some of our clients say, well, some of the recycled material is actually a little more expensive than the virgin material, and they've just pushed back, and it's not being pushed back on any longer. And I think there's a real push to rid the world of plastic, and that's going to be a challenge in and of itself. And what's out there to replace it, they're molded fibers, they're dry pulp, wet pulp. It's not just about printing anymore.
Mm-hmm. And especially for brands, they are looking to bring in consumers, and the consumers want to be sustainable. They are eco-conscious, and they're spending money with brands that are the same, that they're like-minded. So for them, like you said, there's kind of no choice for some of these brands anymore, because if they want to continue to have the same success with customers, they need to be providing their packaging, their materials in a sustainable way.
Absolutely. And again, you look at structural design, that's a field inside the packaging and printing fields, and all the structural designers are coming to the table with innovative ways to reduce packaging output, whether it's providing it with a paper insert versus a plastic insert. Again, you just got a whole array of employment opportunities that are very, very I want to say they're sexy.
They are. And honestly, the items that are being produced and how they're getting produced, it's exciting to see. For me, going into a grocery store or any kind of store, I always look at the packaging, and that's what draws you into the product. And I mean, that's the work that you guys are doing.
Well, and the technology is just going crazy right now. I mean, all the digital embellishments and the digital printing, digital die cutting, digital gluing. I mean, it's all going at a pace. There's a show called, and you probably know it, Drupa,
Yep.
which is Dusseldorf, and so much fun to attend. And I've been going since the 90s and have seen, this technology just completely burst and become robust, and it's not slowing down. And the last Drupa was supposed to be in 2020, and we kind of had to call that one off because of COVID. And
Yes, we did.
so this one, 2024, will be a really great show.
The one question I do ask in conclusion for everybody is one that I always have fun with, and it's always interesting to see the answers too. So, knowing what you know now, with all of your experience in the industry, what advice would you give yourself if you were just starting out now?
I would say go work for someone else. For your family. I really, that's my major regret, is that I didn't work for another company before I came to this one, because didn't appreciate, I really just didn't appreciate what we had from the standpoint of systems and procedures and this type of thing. It would have been really nice to have worked outside of my own family's business. Although I've had a lot of experience outside the business in other areas, giving me some perspective. And I'm so happy that the fourth generation that's here now, they've all worked outside this business. And I think that's the major thing, is to get some perspective on, how things operate in another world.
And to get a new perspective and to get some new ideas.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, Hilda, it was an absolute pleasure to talk with you today. So thank you again for taking the time this morning, and I do appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Denise. It was my pleasure.